Remnant TV to unite with the African clans to bring the Latin Mass to the rooftop of Africa. Tonight, guaranteeing a global right to abortion, Dr. Ted's Pandemic Preparedness Treaty exposed. He just won the Super Bowl. But why did Harrison Butker call out the most powerful Catholic cardinal in America? No wonder Trump's going soft on the moral issues. The Pope's new biography defends gay love and abortion-tainted jabs. All that and great news out of Ireland tonight from the Remnant Underground. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Michael Matt. This is the Remnant Underground with a special announcement tonight. First up, as a traditional Catholic, I've decided that I would like to announce my personal pronouns. Everybody else is doing it, so I want to do it sort of in line with what we are as, traditionalists. So my pronouns now, and I hope you'll adhere to this, they are thou, thy, thyself, thee. Can we think of any others, Walt, offhand? That's good, forsooth? That should do it. That's not a pronoun. Yeah. And now I've seen the light on this thanks to the hard work of that world-renowned sociologist, Ernie Whittaker.
My name is Ernie Whittaker. My pronouns are I, me, he, him, she, her, we, they, us. Sometimes I even use Shakespearean pronouns, which are thee, thou, thy, thyself, and ye. I'm transgender, non-binary, gender conforming, gender fluid, just to name a few.
Ah, yes, mockery. It's so rich, it's so beautiful, and so effective, especially in these days where the unimaginative inmates running our asylum really have no answer for any of it. We really should not underestimate the power of mockery. Besides, it's just funny.
As you all know, the trans movement is the fastest growing movement out there, so I figured, why not get involved in the ground level and use it to my advantage? For instance, whenever I'm late to work, which happens a lot, I'm not gonna lie, I just self-identify as trans late.
Now, granted, their agenda is anything but funny. We all admit that. Essentially, whether they're talking about the trans agenda or abortion or whatever, they are erasing the borders for the same reason as they're promoting abortion. And it's all about fundamentally, as we talk about down here so much, tearing down the old order and starting all over. Building back better, as they say.
You know what Donald Trump will do with 4 more years? Blame, bully, and belittle. And you know what Joe Biden will do? Build back better.
Good one. The weird thing is, as Catholics, that we know that Pope Francis is all for this fundamental transition, tearing down of the old order, isn't he? In every way. Like Soros, Francis envisions a world without borders. And the latest proof of that is his March 21st letter to migrants who were gathered in Panama. Another photo op for this guy. Francis told them in his letter that he wants to accompany them personally because migrants are the face of Christ. And of course, I just have one question. Do you or anyone in this audience, do you see the face of Christ in this? What is Francis talking about? Thankfully, now, he's the most despised pope in history, because when you think about what's happening to our country, literally being overrun by illegals, and do I have to make this stupid caveat again? My grandparents both came from Germany. We don't hate the other, Francis. It's just that my grandparents, like millions of grandparents in this country 100 years ago, followed the rules when they came in. Makes for a peaceful transition. Now, we're going to get to that in just a minute. First, I want to just remind you that the Puy du Fou film on the Catholic uprising in the Vendée is available right now over at remnant-tv.com. Now, don't run right now and watch it because you got to finish out the program. But after the show, check it out. It really, friends, it really, really is so, so good. I watched it the other night with my 12-year-old son, Michael, and just glued to it. He just loved it. It's not cheesy like, so many of these sort of Christian faith-based films tend to be. Not this one. This one's clearly made by Catholics, so you don't feel like you're being bludgeoned to death with a Hallmark card, if you know what I mean. It's kind of like, I guess a good way to describe it would be like a Catholic Braveheart, and certainly it is the best cinematic introduction to the story of the Vendée that I've ever seen. So I highly recommend it. Check it out tonight as soon as this program is over at remnant-tv.com. Now also tonight, before we get into the meat of our show, Very excited about this. We are officially kicking off now the Climb for Christ in Africa. This is our summer 2024 Unite the Clans extravaganza, if you will. It's going to happen in the second part of July. Now, in this is featuring the Remnant and Catholic Identity Conference. We're teaming up with the Confraternity of Our Lady of Fatima to unite with the African clans. And we're going to try, at least, to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, the rooftop of Africa, the tallest freestanding mountain in the world. And primarily, we're going down there to raise money for the missionaries of the Holy Cross of Tanzania, which I've heard about for a long, long time. Can't wait to get there, meet them, provide a little coverage, and hopefully raise some money. So I've pledged to raise at least $5,000 between now and July, but obviously I need your help to make that happen. For me, this is going to be a challenge, a physically taxing challenge, obviously, since only about 60% of those who attempt to climb Mount Kilimanjaro actually make it. So I'm going to try. And by the way, I'm paying my own way to Africa, so let's not do that thing. Every single penny that you donate goes directly to this mission in Tanzania, every penny of it. And you can make if you want to sponsor me, you can make a tax-exempt donation to the Remnant Foundation at the link right down here. And this is really cool. Our chaplain, he's going to be climbing the whole thing with us, and he will be celebrating the Latin Mass every day on Kilimanjaro. It takes a while to acclimate, so they usually take 6 or 7 days to get a group like ours up to the top, to the summit. And so every day of the climb, we're going to be having the traditional Latin Mass on Mount Kilimanjaro, which I just can't help but think is a very providential sign right now. The new print edition of the Remnant, we have a letter from Bishop Athanasius Schneider endorsing the effort. You can read that, the link down below, but he says, quote, "I recommend to you wholeheartedly the missionaries of the Holy Cross in Tanzania. I know this religious community since many years, and I visit them regularly. It is a truly inspiring little community," writes Bishop Schneider, "with love and esteem for the liturgical tradition of the church and the formation of authentic Catholic priests." I simply can't wait to get over there and to meet this. It just seems so providential right now that this mission is not only thriving, but it's looking to seriously expand. And as American Catholics, we get to help them do that. So let's put Unite the Clans in action this summer. Because you know what? Not only in Africa, but around the world, this war is far from over, friends. There's so many reasons. This Holy Week's coming up, and lots of bad news, I realize, but there's so much reason for hope. There's so much for us to fight for. So just since last week's Underground, proof once again surfaces that resistance is not futile. You remember this guy. But again, according to the openly gay Prime Minister of Ireland, the Constitution retains, quote, "far too many remnants of Catholic Ireland where women and the definition of marriage are concerned." Now, you boo-birds out there who say there's no point in resisting, nothing ever good happens, it's all over, we can't do anything about it. That was last week. 1 week ago, we shot that. This is this week.
So I am resigning as President and Leader of Fine Gael effective today, and will resign as Taoiseach as soon as my successor is able to take up that office.
Isn't that just a shame? So sad. You know, it's just heartbreaking to see that. Klaus Schwab's young globalist leader and Ireland's first openly gay prime minister. Such a big deal, right? Well, he resigned not only as the head of his government, but also as the leader of his own political party. So good riddance to you, pal, and leave Catholic Ireland alone. How about? He's toast. And why is he toast? Well, I would say that this New Yorker headline explains it quite nicely. Irish Prime Minister's career ended because he went woke. Did you see this coming? The Irish literally vomited this little man out of their mouth. And now it's being billed as one of the biggest defeats in Irish electoral history, friends. I mean, this is a big deal. This really is. So, if it can happen in Ireland, it can happen anywhere. You got this guy sitting over there with Joe Biden. You get that picture? Well, yeah. I mean, just look at this. Look at this deal. I don't even know what they're doing here. They're holding the plant again. I don't know what it is with globalists and plants. Tessie, do you know? Do you have any idea?
Oh, well, they love the plants.
They love the plants. plants. Are they trying to make it like a sacramental? Everybody's always holding a plant, whether it's Francis or Bono or now these two characters pretending to be Catholic leaders, holding the dang plant. It's so stupid. So again, this was just a couple of weeks ago when this picture was taken, and now he's gone. And my question is, or my challenge is, who's next? Which is the next little globalist leader who's going to be taken down by the sane people in the asylum? Because I would nominate the little ferret, of course.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much. Happy Pride!
So come on, Canadians, do the world a favor and send your little goofy prime minister back to Davos where he belongs. Everyone has, and this is the point of the show tonight, everyone has so clearly had enough of these guys that if we can't begin to do something about it, it's beginning to be on us. Everybody always talks about how much power they have and you can never do anything. Well, you know what? You can. You just have to get up and do it. In Europe, it's starting to happen. It's starting to almost seem like a domino effect.
Európa életjelet ad, védekezik és hallatja a hangját. Nagyon régen nem láttam ilyen jó alkalmat arra, hogy a nemzeti konzervatív, szuverenista és keresztény alapokon álló erők az Európai Unióban meghatározóvá váljanak. Mi szemben az ellenfeleinkkel nem eszméket, hanem az európai embereket képviseljük, és mi vagyunk az európai embereket sanyargató brüsszeliták rémálma.
The European farmers, we've been covering that for months. They're only getting stronger. They're not backing down. They've taken to the streets again to protest the globalist push to actually starve people to death to save the planet. But it's not just the farmers, not just the truckers, it's not just the farmers. The American car manufacturers, not exactly daily communicants over at Ford Motor Company, huge manufacturers telling the globalists to pound sand.
Ford finally heard us. Ford's CEO has had enough and shut down their entire EV production. Their CEO, Jim Farley, has finally heard the common man, and he's now stopping production and going back to gas cars. Ford already lost more than $4 billion on EVs last year, selling EVs at a shocking loss of $36,000 per vehicle. And get this, their January EV sales are literally the worst in the entire decade. Now Ford has just ditched EVs and became the #1 car maker again, leaving brands like Toyota, GM, and Tesla eating their dust.
So all the way from the big guys, the big global corporations, down to the little guys, this is happening. Like our little friend, the pizza man, he's still at it. Now he was arrested this week for his one-man crusade against the lunatical globalist plan to outlaw coal burners and wood-fired ovens in New York City. Here he is.
Come on, stop. Don't arrest them. Come on. Don't be clowns. Get a circlement.
How is he being arrested for littering? Littering is a fine. You're absolutely being arrested for littering. This mayor is corrupt.
All right.
This is a fine. This is not an arrestable offense.
Feed the
This is not an
pigeons.
arrestable offense, and you guys should be ashamed of yourself for following his orders.
This is not insignificant, friends. Look how many people are gathered. Every time this guy gets out there to start pitching his playing Frisbee with his pizzas, there's media there are police there. Shows you what one guy can do. He's making national news, throwing pizza around in New York City because it's just so stupid and because so many people are actually rooting him on, you know? So people like that, like the pizza guy of New York City, I want to get him on this show. You know he's got to be a Catholic. They're the tip of the spear of an international counter-revolution that's simply had enough. A counter-revolution against globalism that's now, by the way, as we showed a few episodes ago, actually managing to win political elections as well.
Who elected Soros to dictate public policy and laws? Why does he feel entitled to impose his agenda? The global elites, they hate our success, and they fear yours. The dollar will fall, and the Western civilization with it. We transform El Salvador from the most dangerous country in the world to the safest in the Western Hemisphere.
Anyway, his country is straightening out. He's calling God back. He's calling patriotism, calling people to stand up for their country, and it's working, and the left has no idea what's going on. So I see lots of reasons for hope and to continue to fight. We have a big target coming up. Everybody knows this. This is the WHO, the World Health Organization's Pandemic Preparedness Treaty.
The proposed WHO Pandemic Treaty, or agreement, however, which UN News explicitly states will be binding on any country that agrees to it. Binding.
For the full version, go to remnant-tv.com.
But the good news is that there is a serious fight going on. We just watched the Congressman there, doing a press conference with a lot of powerful people. They're fighting back. The Africans are fighting back against the World Health Organization's Pandemic Preparedness Treaty. There's a coalition of African scientists that is out there right now saying that this treaty is colonialist and racist. Oh man, I love it. I love it when people on our side can play the race card. Isn't that great? And that's exactly what they're doing.
And you can't turn that around back at it. They get to use that card.
They get to do it. It's fantastic. So this is the Pan-African Epidemic and Pandemic Working Group, and they are arguing right now that lockdowns were a, quote, class-based and unscientific instrument. They're also demanding that African nations be allowed to prioritize tackling their own major health needs, including diseases and pandemics. The coalition says that the WHO treaty is racist and that it threatens the, quote, health sovereignty and economic independence of the African nations. Now, all of a sudden, wouldn't you know, thanks to the Africans, the World Health Organization is considering some 300 amendments to this lunatical treaty. Way to go, Africans. But of course, they're still coming.
Had it been in place before COVID-19, had the agreement been in place before COVID-19, we would not have lost so much. Now is the moment for leadership from the highest levels of government to deliver the pandemic agreement to the World Health Assembly in 15 weeks' time.
They want to control our religion, to control our freedom of movement, to control our food, and of course, now, friends, the most important one of all, they want to control our money, and in Australia, it's happening at a rapid rate of speed.
In the latest wave of closures, a major bank has abruptly announced it's shutting all its branches for good. But as customers are forced to go online, should banks be allowed to prune their branches?
I'm not a computer person, and if it wasn't for my son or daughter, I don't know what I'd do.
And the bank's making a decision just to abandon these customers.
Bankwest. It's been handling the cash of the people of WA for almost 130 years. And this is its slogan.
At Bankwest, it's bank less from now on.
Less is right. The state's oldest lender announcing it's going online only from October.
That's bank stuff.
The plan? 45 branches will be shut down.
This is just so bizarre. Imagine if you just don't have any cash. Imagine how you're going to be constantly monitored. Everything you do, everything you think, everything you order, everything you buy, everywhere you go, Big Brother monitors you because you don't have cash. You're going to try to track everything you do, like a criminal when he's out after he commits a crime. He's using a credit card somewhere. Everybody can see exactly where he is, and he gets arrested, right? Well, it's going to be the same thing to all of us, treating everyone like criminals. In Australia, it's like they're becoming a penal colony all over again. But the thing is, we're not far behind. That's why 2024, this year, is so important. If we don't wake up, we'll be right in line with Australia. And if you think the wrong thoughts, you too will be cut off from your own money, just like the Canadian truckers were. Please wake up, friends. None of this is innocent. The noose is tightening around the necks of everyone, everywhere. And there's a chance right now. We still have a chance to fight back, but man, do we ever have to get out in the street and start screaming. We either have to learn groupthink, or we need to start screaming bloody murder over this. We can't just vote our way out of it. It's not going to work. Does anyone in this audience seriously believe that these nut jobs, that these guys are just going to stand back and let Donald J. Trump waltz on back into the Oval Office, the White House?
The Democrat open borders plan to entrench single-party rule, explained in under 2 minutes. 1. Flood the country with untold millions of illegals by land, sea, and air from all over the world, enough to eclipse the populations of 36 individual U.S. states so far. 2. Prioritize the needs of these millions of non-citizens over the needs of the American citizen, with free flights, buses, hotels, meals, and phones, ensuring their loyalty to the political party that imported them. 3. Keep them in the country at all costs, even when they commit violent crime like murder and rape. Attack the language used to describe the criminals, as opposed to the criminals themselves. Slander critics as racist. 4. Ensure their privileges are made irrevocable with city and state sanctuary laws that act as population magnets. Codify permanent status and ensure non-cooperation with ICE. 5. Count the non-citizens in the census that will determine congressional apportionment in the House of Representatives. As of now, that would equal 13 extra congressional districts, a tremendous amount of electoral power. 6. Wage a massive, heavily funded lawfare campaign to change state voting laws that legalize mass mail-in ballots, no signature verification, and no proof of citizenship requirements, making it nearly impossible to prove voter fraud. 7. Lock in the permanent voting majority with campaign promises of lavish benefits and permanent privileges, enshrining generational fealty to the Democrat Party. 8. Win elections. 9. Entrenched single-party rule has been achieved. The best part? Your tax dollars are paying for it.
But then, of course, the other problem, friends, I'm going to close on this. The other big problem that we all need to think about, this is not going to be popular because there's a lot of hope riding on what's going to happen with Trump in the very near future. But we would be silly not to admit that Trump himself is going soft on some pretty important issues, especially the moral issues. And why is he going soft on the moral issues? Well, because he remembers, 2 reasons. He remembers the 2022 midterms when the lizard people actually went out and campaigned on perversion and the blood of aborted babies. And guess what? They won. Remember this? I mean, here in Minnesota, even the pro-life candidates more or less promised not to be pro-life.
Abortion is divisive, and Tim Walz is weaponizing the issue.
In the ad, Republican Scott Jensen holds his new granddaughter and looks to remind voters that abortion rights in Minnesota are protected by the state Supreme Court's 1995 Doe versus Gomez decision.
In Minnesota, it's a protected constitutional right, and no governor can change that.
Trump knows that if he doesn't do something similar, what we just showed you happened here in Minnesota, which was a disaster, it didn't work. But he's thinking if he doesn't do something similar, he will lose in 2024. That's a little scary, isn't it? What are we going to do? Well, we're going to have to get our priests to weigh in eventually on this, fathers. We're going to need some moral advice on this, fathers. What do we do? Of course, the standard idea is the principle being we're not voting for pro-abortion. We're not voting for LGBT rights in a vote for Donald Trump. So therefore, I guess it's going to be okay, but we sure could use some good, healthy, moral discussions on this right now, right? Where are all the traditional Catholic priests on this issue? Where are they? We really need some help because we're all going to be facing this, and we better have a good, clear conscience of what we're going to do. Because it was the same with the Trump team and the LGBT thing before the last election. All of a sudden, they changed their tune. Do you remember?
As the leader of the Republican Party and President of the United States, Donald has been clear that gays and lesbians will be treated as he has always treated them, equally. Donald is the first president to enter the White House supporting gay marriage. Donald is also the first president to appoint an openly gay official to his cabinet.
Do you realize what's going on here? Gay marriage is now the law of the land in this country. And every conservative politician from now on, moving forward, is going to have to confront this. He's going to be hard-pressed to hold on to the Christian ground on this. Don't you see? When the Catholic Pope is out there calling for blessings, unilateral blessings of gay unions, gay couples, I don't care what he says about gay marriage. That's irrelevant, Mr. Pope splainer with a giant microphone. We're talking about him blessing the couples. That's all Donald Trump sees. That's all any of these non-Catholic politicians see. Blessing the couples. Where do you think our non-denominational Christian President Trump is going to find the moral authority, the moral high ground to stand against it? You know? In his just-released autobiography called Life, My Story Through History, our Pope...
That's the 8th time I've told it.
Man, how many biographies does he need? How many documentaries does this holy man need? Every week there's another one coming out, doesn't it seem? This is Francis's latest Life, My Story Through History. Pope Megalomaniac here reveals that while, quote, homosexual marriage remains impossible, this is not the case for civil unions, because it is right that these people who live the gift of love can have legal coverage like everyone else. People who engage in anal sex holiness are now living the gift of love. Are you out of your cotton-picking mind?
The promise to commit sodomy with another person is not an expression of love, it's an expression of sin, and it's an expression of a rejection of God's law. God's law is the standard of love. The way we love people is to follow God's law. So to promise to commit sodomy with another person, you know, even before a civil authority, and then receive all kinds of legal recognitions accorded to marriage, is an assault on marriage, because it's treating marriage as unimportant.
And again, this comes to us in the new book, another biography of Francis. In case there was anything you were... Yet another one. In case you were curious at some detail you might have missed about Pope Humble I, right? And who do you think is going to be narrating the English language audio version of the Pope's new biography book? Who do you think it's going to be? Well, it was Stephen Colbert, of course. I mean, who else would it be?
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. I'm pretty excited because my next guest is a Jesuit priest, author and editor-at-large of America Magazine. His latest book is called Learning to Pray. Please welcome to a Late Show, Father Jim Martin. Father Jim, good to see you.
Good to see you.
And I assume...
These friends, these are the allies of Pope Francis. These are the confidants of Pope Francis. As the psychiatrists say, how does that make you feel? As a Catholic, how does that make you feel? Apostates, heretics, schismatics, whatever, they're all just fine. They're all working with Francis. Well, traditional Catholics, people who have adhered to the old faith and the old Mass, well, they're being canceled by Francis. Or they're being given tongue lashings by Francis on a weekly basis. In his new book, Francis dresses down faithful Christians even who were not eager to embrace abortion-tainted vaccines. I kid you not. Pope Francis denounces anti-vaxxers, calls COVID jab refusal an almost suicidal act of denial. And you're blaming Donald Trump for Operation Warp Speed? Where was Donald Trump? Where was he supposed to get the moral authority when the Pope was out there telling everybody we had an obligation to be vaccinated? I'm just asking questions. What do we do with all of this? Any politician who stands against gay marriage today, for example, any one of them who stands against gay marriage, when even the Pope is blessing the gay couples, right? Any politician who stands against it then will look like an absolutely unhinged nut job, totally unelectable, right? More Catholic than the Pope. Ooh, cuckoo, cuckoo. You see how easily they're all going to be dismissed? And this is exactly what traditional Catholics have been saying for 70 years. For 70 years. If you take the traditional Catholic moral authority out, the moral teaching of the traditional Catholic Church based on Scripture and tradition, you take it out, if you minimize it, you have put the world on a short route to chaos. Well, welcome to chaos. And that, friends, that is why what we're doing, all of us together, uniting the clans, keeping the faith until God intervenes, that's why it matters. That's why it's the only game in town as far as I'm concerned. Every Catholic in the world today is called upon to resist these globalists to their faces, publicly resist them, even and especially the ones wearing the long white robes over in the Vatican, because they're the ones that matter most. It's time to stand up. It's time to speak out. We've said it time and time again. There are no question marks anymore. You know exactly what's going on. And if you had any doubt whatsoever, just buy the Pope's new book. Read that, because he wants to tell you all about it. And do you know what it looks like to stand up against him? Do you know what it looks like to be courageous enough to actually take that stand publicly? We have a great example for you this week, friends. It looks like this.
You have been very outspoken about your faith. Recently, Cardinal Dolan said that you sent him a note about the transgender activist funeral that took place in St. Patrick's Cathedral. A lot of controversy around that. What was in your note to the Cardinal? He said that you shared how upset you were. Is that right?
Oh, definitely. You know, that whole story was all over the news, and you pull it up and you think, wow, you know, I'm a Catholic, this is St. Patrick's Cathedral, and there's all of these things being said when you watch the funeral that are making fun of the Catholic faith, that are making fun of our Lord. This is not acceptable. And I was waiting on someone to come out and say that this is outrageous, this is an abomination, this should have never happened, this should have been stopped. And nothing came. So I actually went on His Eminence's show last year, and they had asked for me to go on the show this year. And I sent a letter saying, I would love to go on the show, but I can't unless something is addressed with what happened at St. Patrick's Cathedral. Someone should be held accountable. There needs to be a strong stance. We need men that are leading, saying, you know what, this is not right, this is wrong. As Catholics, we will not accept this. And so I do want to clear the air and just say that, yes, it was bad what happened at St. Patrick's, but the letter was really encouraging and pushing His Eminence to make a statement decrying what happened and say that this was an abomination, someone should be held accountable, potentially fired, and nothing came about from that. And I think we have to have, especially leaders in the Catholic Church, standing up to all of the woke things that are going on in our society.
Boy, it's been a while, right? Since you've seen somebody do that, a guy who's got everything going for him, good looking, all the money in the world, right? Top of the world, just won a Super Bowl. That young man has a lot to lose. And yet he stood up and said the right thing anyway. That's what it looks like. He stood up against the most powerful religious figure in the United States of America. And in that moment of grace, guess what? That young football player was most assuredly more Catholic than the Pope. So tell your kids about this guy. Tell your kids about this hero. I didn't call him a hero because he won the Super Bowl this year, did I? It's because he stood up and he did what is right as a Catholic. And that's the stuff, friends, that changes history. When you see that, you know the war's not over. You know there's every reason for hope. There's every reason to get up and fight back. In the end, God wins. We say it every week. But when you see young men like that willing to say that sort of thing in public, you know this war is far from over. So I support this guy. I'm not much of an NFL guy, but man, that's the spirit I want to close this show out tonight. Thank God for this young guy. Everybody needs to do the exact same thing in the face of the evil and the cowardice that we see all around us right now. I'm Michael Matt for Remnant TV. Thank you very much for listening to the show tonight. A happy and blessed and holy week, and we'll see you next week.